The following the following is a presentation of Morning Drive Media.
From the southernmost point of Dorne to the lands of always winter, and what is west of west and the shadows in the east, this is Casterly Talk. I'm Ken Napzok, recording this late in the day on a holiday Friday edition, and broadcasting at the time live on YouTube. Most of you probably watching a little bit later. I'm just springing this on everybody, just saying hello. All right, today we are going to be catching up with questions. Here's what's going on. I've been doing the big Game of Thrones rewatch, and we're not just rewatching the show and doing a review and looking back. We are going deep into the themes. We are going deep into the lessons, the favorite moments, and the things that I feel make the show stand the test of time, regardless of feelings of how it ended or where it went. There's a large group of fans that have not left the story because they haven't left the books, they haven't left the maps, they haven't left talking about what this show does to you as a fan. So that's why we're doing it. But what's been happening is I was recording the show on a weekly basis, putting it here on YouTube with the Casterly Talk crew and others. And then I started, my schedule got a little jumbled. And there's a rhythm to you if you're listening. If you're a listener of the show, you know when to maybe get some calls in to put them on air. And we have calls about specific episodes. Well, by the time we hit season 2, I was starting to record things out of order, and I have been. We're about halfway through on episodes that I've recorded. So what I'll do right now, it's a holiday weekend too. You got other things to do. I think I'll put out this quick episode. I think I am putting out this quick episode, just catching up with some of the great questions that have been brought to the Casterly Talk page on Anchor. We got some great ones. We got some, always get some regular callers checking in with their great theories, their what ifs, adding to thoughts me or guests have had on the themes and lessons, bringing their own to the table. And I just love that stuff. So I don't want to feel like anyone's cheated out there. Some great questions that I didn't get till after I recorded the episode on season 2, episode 1, season 2, episode 2, so on and so on. We've, like I said, got halfway through in the can, and that is, it's going to, I just don't want you to feel left out. So it's a casual show here. I got some questions that, a lot of times I'll try to listen ahead of time and research, write down notes. I got to get that chair fixed. You hear that chair? I've been in a battle with the seller of a replacement chair. Long story. We'll say that on the Napzok Files. We'll tell that story. So you're going to get a squeaky chair every now and then. It's just life. I feel like Tyrion in the small council chamber, just making noise with my chair. We also got some people watching live. Not a lot. Like I said, just kind of sprung this show on everyone here on a Friday night. Not normally what we do, go live. But Ranger Donald is watching right now. Christy McGee. So if any of them have questions about the first couple episodes of season 2 of Game of Thrones, or just in general about Game of Thrones, we'll go into that. I'll gladly answer them. Taping this, of course, for posterity, be released here on the Casterly Talk podcast feed. All right, we got Jonathan with this question going back to episode 10 of season 1. I actually had recorded that one a little bit ahead of time. So Jonathan's call didn't get in, and I like this call. And Jonathan's been just hitting some great home runs here in the phone calls into the Anchor app. So let's play this one here from our pal Jonathan.
Hey, Kenny Casterly Talk. This is John. This message might be a little bit repetitive. I'm sure because Ken, you've already talked about a lot of these moments from this past season. But for me, I kind of wanted to give my thoughts and maybe hear some other experiences or thoughts as well. So for my first watch through of the Game of Thrones, unfortunately, I was spoiled about Ned's death. So that moment of this season didn't quite hit as much as it should have emotionally. So for my personal experience, the biggest emotional impact was Dany emerging with the dragons. At that point, I had no idea dragons were in the show. And it was just such a huge WTF moment, such a twist, and went from me liking the show a lot to absolutely falling in love with the show. Of course, it's a lot of surface level stuff, but maybe for everyone else or Ken too, what are some moments from this first season that still stick out to you on the rewatch that you absolutely love? And maybe what are some moments that have maybe shine brighter on the rewatch? Thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John, for the call. Yeah, looking back on the Ned stuff and the Daenerys stuff at the end of season 1. And here's what I'll say, especially going back now. This is why I've been just enjoying, that all 8 seasons of the show. And I can't wait to finish the story in the books, of course. But to go back in the show, go back to the beginning. It's definitely, I think it's long been a case when you go back to season 1 that the last goodbyes and the last moments a lot of the people have together. But what I do love, I want to talk about the Daenerys moment, the return of magic, and that was big, and that was a lot of hope. I think the passing of Ned, to say nicely, was a gut punch to a lot of people. A gut punch in the greatest of ways. It's historic for a reason in terms of just television. And yep, it happened many, many, many years earlier in the book world, but it changed the game, and we've talked a lot about that. But without a doubt, it was a punch to the gut. It was a punch to the heart. Good old pro wrestling heart punch move. Big Bully Busick used to close out matches with that. So it hurt. It hurt. It really hurt. And I think looking back now, going to season 1 and episode 10 and what goes on with Daenerys, I gotta tell you, it's a big pile of hope. It's a big pile of, wow, this show just ripped my heart out, but we got this going forward, which again is why it hurts where it ends up going and where it ends up, which is fine. I think a little pain is okay. A little pain is good. So I go back to a lot of that stuff. Tyrion finding his footing and Tyrion's step out of who he was at the time when we meet him at the beginning of season 1. We immediately like him. We immediately gravitate towards him. But he's a Lannister, and you're trying to figure out the lay of the land, and you haven't really got to a ton of the layers with Cersei and Jaime yet. I think they're there. I think they're present in season 1. But to be part of House Lannister, you're immediately kind of cast as a bad guy. But so going back and just seeing the journey he goes on and seeing the journey he ends up having, and the moments with him and Jon, I really love going back to season 1 and just Tyrion and Jon on the way to the wall, Tyrion and Jon at the wall, and building that trust, building that connection, and see where it plays. But then, John, going back to the Daenerys moment, yeah, it caught me off guard, which it really, when you watch it in 2011, you kind of should have seen it coming, not just as the actual detail of Dany and the dragons, but just, who she was and who she was going to set out to try to be and be for all intents and purposes. The signs are all there, obviously, from the infamous, I always call it the infamous bath moment in the pilot where Dany walks in and it's hot and everything. If you don't pay attention to that, you're not ready to pay attention to those details on season 1 way back in 2011 or whenever you first watched the show. Wherever you find the books, or if you find the books, is obviously a different conversation. So I think, it all leads to just such a hopeful moment and a great way to end season 1, and it stands out. We got new people watching live. Zach Anderson's watching live. Will McLean says, how far are you on the rewatch series? I fell way behind. We are in season 1, Will, so you have time to catch up. We got reviews, discussions of episode 3 of season 2, episode 4, and episode 5 are currently in the can. They'll be out here through December. So into January, we'll finish up season 2, and you can get a call in then. Donald Long has got some great calls coming in. But he's got this question here. Reading the book version of it long after watching the episode, I'm glad they didn't make her lose her hair. Yeah, that is one of the little changes. They didn't burn the wig off, which I'm okay with. It is, you kind of, there's definitely some questions of how do you walk into that pyre and not lose your hair. But, it's, you can just go like this. It's Targaryen hair. Kristen McGee says, hey, the passing of Ned haunts the entire first season for me whenever I rewatch. Really left its mark on me. I think that's a great point, too, when you go back and the horror of knowing what's coming. For Casterly Talk, I'm in the middle of a season 2 rewatch. Grace and I just on our own kind of gone ahead. We're well into season 5. And there's a lot of moments where Grace will kind of say, like, that's their last time seeing each other. Not just season 1 Stark stuff, but just other characters along the way. And it's like, yeah, that is, or they don't see each other there. That kind of haunts you. What happens haunts you. So going back to season 1 and just every decision Ned makes, everything about Ned, right or wrong, stubborn or righteous in his decisions, it can't haunt you. I can't haunt you. Jim W asks, we meet Davos in season 2, and he is good. He is good. Did you have any idea he would make it all the way to the end? I love Davos. Davos and Jorah were my guys I was really hoping to go all the way. Meet you all the way. No, but I never had hope for Jorah. And eventually, you start reading. I got through book 5 well before the end of the show. So you had kind of an idea, but obviously the show moved past that. And obviously the show set the tone early on of making the decisions it needed to tell its story. So I was never confident that Jorah was going to make it. I do remember there was, season 3? Yeah, season 3. We got the episode is titled, what episode is where Jaime and Bran and the bear and so the episode, long story short, is titled The Bear and the Maiden Fair. And I remember texting a friend of mine and just saying, Jorah goes, right? That's the episode. The Bear and the Maiden Fair. The bear's Jorah, Dany's the Maiden Fair. From a certain point of view. And I thought, he's gone. He's gone. And she knew the answer was no. She hadn't seen that episode, obviously, but knew that, most likely Jorah was going to be okay. She didn't let me, but she didn't tell me. She let me twist in the wind about it. For Davos, after a while, it just made sense to me that a character like Davos and a character like Tyrion, among others, but those characters kind of had, they were part of the show's moral center. I think that's one of the valuable things about Davos Seaworth is, yeah, I'm a Stannis Baratheon fan, but when Stannis is hard to love. He's hard to love, but you do love Davos. And when you see Stannis through Davos's eyes, especially when he's at the Iron Bank and kind of laying his heart on the line for Stannis and who he is. I like it. I believe in it. But it's part of the complications of it. It's part of the Battle of Blackwater Bay works so well, and we haven't got there yet in the review, so this is probably something we'll talk about even more. But the Battle of Blackwater Bay, you have 2 factions that you don't completely root for, but you're definitely not completely rooting against. Tyrion is leading the defense of King's Landing. Well, you want that to be successful for him. You kind of like Bronn. Sansa's back there. You want her safe. Cersei, but you get she's planning to kill Tommen. You're not necessarily rooting for that. So you can't root against them. And then on the other side, you got Stannis, and a lot of you might not like Stannis. A lot of you might not want Stannis taking King's Landing. You would have wanted Renly or others. But here comes Stannis, and I don't think you completely root against him because Davos is there. And that's what the show does time and time again so well. Yes, originates from the stories told in the books. Totally. I always feel I need to add that in lest someone will shake a finger at me. But I enjoy engaging with the show and the story presented on the show. So that's the thing with Davos. So I got to say, I never really, well, I don't say never really doubted whether or not, Davos was going to stay around. I had the sense that him and Tyrion are part of just this, part of the fabric of the show's heart, that if you take them out, you don't have that moral center. So there you go on that. So great question, Jim. Ranger Donald says, I had no idea about the White Walkers. So very first thing I see about the show was a zombie. And I was like, real zombies. I can't. Thanks to 7, I kept going. Yeah, that's interesting. I would, Ranger Donald, I didn't know anything going into the pilot at all. other than whispers of a story some friends of mine had read, but I didn't know. And so I was expecting, a little Lord of the Rings vibe. So you might have some magic, might have some wizards. I was totally there for that. As I said before, I was hooked right then. Who, ice zombies? What's happening? I have no idea what I'm seeing. And then it doesn't go back to that. You go to the credits, and then the credits kind of pull you in. And holy moly, like you're not dealing with the ice zombies. Not really. You're talking about it. But no one's dealing with it. You're dealing with the politics. You're dealing with the characters. You're dealing with the personalities. And so it's like, okay, something's going on. And I loved it there. So there we go. Zach Anderson checking in live. Says, just started reading Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, which is an officially endorsed Casterly Talk choice. Check it out. No affiliation. I get nothing for recommending this book, but Entertainment Weekly's James Hibbert put out this great book, Fire Cannot Kill Dragon. Easy read, oral history style. That's great. We've been talking about it a lot here, but if you're watching live or watching on YouTube and you haven't seen before, I don't want to over-repeat myself, but it's a great book. Zach Anderson says, my favorite part was the description of the real-life relationship of Kit Harington and Rose Leslie and how it translated into their performances in the show. Yeah, love will keep us together. Yeah, it's great. Grace and I, in watching season 2 and 3 and into 4, the sadness at the end there, but yeah, you kind of have some moments, and it worked, man. It's scary sometimes when those actors have chemistry. That's what happens. One of the things that was fascinating it was revealed in that book, Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, is Ramsay and Theon. On camera and off, they were close. They had a good, interesting dynamic. They were friends, but the dynamic would be in play out and about at bars or something like that. And Theon, Alfie Allen, was still kind of submissive, and it just how it kind of messed with his brain a little bit there. Love that kind of stuff. All right, we got another call here. This one's from our pal Eric Monroe.
Hey, Ken and Casterly Talk. So season 2, my personal favorite season. And of course, I was very heavily invested in who was going to play Stannis Baratheon, given my love and fascination with his character in the book. And I heard it was going to be Stephen Delane. I most recently had seen him in John Adams, where he played Thomas Jefferson. He was wonderful in it. So I was like, that could work. So the first scene was fine, but it was that second scene when he's giving his royal proclamation. And he says, you know what, make it Sir Jaime Lannister to Kingslayer. That was the moment I said that is Stannis, and I absolutely agree with Stannis. The throne was his by right. They're all thieves. They should all bend the knee to him because once Robert died, he was the king, in my opinion. I support his claim. Starry episode, definitely Stephen Delane. But if you want to mention Carice Van Helton and Liam Cunningham as well, I can live with that because after all, they are Team Stannis.
Team Stannis, indeed. Eric Monroe checking in. He's on Team Stannis with me now and forever. But Eric agrees with me. Some of the value of Stannis as a character is the lessons you learn from him. But this was a call that Eric intended to have me play on our discussion of season 2, episode 1. And yeah, this season has the very hard, very difficult to reach task of building off of season 1 for a general audience that was still growing and still interested, and word of mouth was definitely affecting the popularity of the show, and more people were tuning in. But now you have to come in and deliver on the promises, and also create new characters and storylines for everyone to get involved with. And I'll say this, because they're keeping to the story laid out at this point from George R. R. Martin and Clash of Kings and everything. We heard Stannis be mentioned. And you got the idea that Stannis was not loved, and to finally see him, he's got the Red Priestess, and fire's burning, and I love that opening sequence. I think it's valuable, but I think again, they were going to do it. It was part of the story, but I always thought it is kind of risky that you're like, cool, you love season 1 of Game of Thrones. We're going to introduce an entire new arc and set of characters, and it's dour Stannis. It's not going to be popular. And he's over there saying the Iron Throne is mine by right. And, it was. But also, power is power. And power lies where men believe it lies. So everything we learned from Renly and Stannis in their little interactions in the parlay is is about that. And Stannis has to face that. And Stannis is very frustrated. And that's why I was drawn in by him. I always refer to it as the prodigal son's brother syndrome. He's done everything right, and yet no one seems to care. And he can't see the reward that might come his way, or can't see what he's got, can't see what he actually has earned. And Melisandre comes along and says, don't worry, I'll help you get what you earned because I see great things for you. I think in order for that really to work, you had to find someone like Stephen Delane. And yeah, there's Stephen has said there's some quotes that we've talked about often here that he get the idea he wasn't a huge fan of the show or he did it for money, and that's true from a certain point of view. But there's also enough evidence out there that Stephen's just he's an actor who's there to act. He's not there for the hoopla, and he did everything needed and more for the show, and didn't have a problem with it, and committed. It did 5 seasons? That's a long time for someone who might not have liked the show. So he must have liked it on some level. And the book Fire Cannot Kill Dragon does go into Stephen Delane. There's not much. If there is, I can't recall. Maybe there's a couple things, but there's nothing from Stephen Delane. Clearly, no comment. Doesn't want to talk about it. But the performers do. Gethin Anthony talks about being at the scene with him. And there is kind of an intimidation factor. And Liam Cunningham says, look, so he says, that I'm paraphrasing, but Liam Cunningham says in that book, there's a lot of things that are said that are like unfair about Stephen Delane. He's a great actor, generous actor, and great to be in scenes with and all that stuff. And it shows, but I think it was a great choice coming off of John Adams, where I'm like Eric. I'd just seen him in John Adams as Thomas Jefferson and thought he was spectacular. And so I think he was a perfect choice, inspired choice, and brought himself into that role and that intimidation factor. So again, I'm rambling about Stannis, but I just love, I love the choice. I love the choice that they were going to say, look, here we go. You're going to get this big plot and you're not going to necessarily root for this guy, but we know we're going to make it work. And again, Davos is key to that. But here's the story of Stannis and what are the lessons that you can take from it. Jim W has another follow-up question here. What do they know about the Greyjoy rebellion? Like, how far did they get until they were defeated? It was only Ned and North involved, which is why Theon was taken as prisoner. No, a lot of other people involved. A lot of other people involved. It's been a while since I've studied the actual, beat by beat facts of this stuff. So you can go find some great stuff on YouTube on the Greyjoy rebellion. They were good, man. I mean, they're the kings and queens of the sea, for sure. And they've got some big victories, but yeah, you cracking out of water, it's a problem. So, Balon Greyjoy, his people definitely probably behind him on the rebellion, but it was what does Tyrion say early on when he meets Theon at Winterfell? When Theon's kind of bragging, he's like, "Well, then the rebellion was stupid." I'm paraphrasing, but probably true. So, anyways, yeah, Jim, I have to refresh my brain on the exact details, but I love they do tie into that history of. Pike and the breaching into the walls at Pike, and Thoros Amir with his flaming sword, who of course we meet season 3, Jorah being there, Jaime, Jorah Cassell, great history there to that kind of stuff. So look it up, man. That's what I love about this show too. It'll inspire you to study the history of what's going on here. Got this call from Billy.
Hey, Ken, it's Billy. Sorry if this is too late to make it into the episode about episode 1 of season 2, but I just wanted to call in saying I really enjoyed the episode. It's awesome to go back and see these smaller character moments that you kind of forget about over time. And perhaps the biggest one that stuck out to me, there was 2 actually, but the biggest one I think is the moment between Cersei and Joffrey, when she slaps him and you can see the fear in her eyes and she looks down, she can barely even look at him because she is truly afraid for her life. She knows the kind of evil that her son can commit. And it was interesting to see a moment. I don't know if it's compassion, goodness, or what it was from Joffrey, where he's like, hey, don't ever do that again. Like there's still a connection between him and his mother, which I don't know if it diminishes over time or if it's kind of constant, but it was interesting to see a little goodness come from Joffrey.
That's an interesting Way to describe it, Billy. Billy's always got great calls, and you've given me pause to think about Joffrey in that moment. I love that scene. And the scene he's talking about, of course, is Cersei slapping Joffrey in the Red Keep while Joffrey's having it remodeled. After Joffrey just kind of goes in on her, on the rumors about her and Uncle Jaime and the bastards, which leads to the end of the episode with all the bastards of Robert being erased, to put it kindly. Something that comes from Joffrey on the show. I love that scene because I really do feel, and I did say it on the discussion, but I really do feel that's one of the final moments that Cersei has a handle on Joffrey, has control of Joffrey. And it's a testament, a theme of motherhood, of whatever it might be. But it is the moment to me where Billy uses compassion, kindness. I just think there's something there. That's still his mother, but she might have broke the chain there for him too, not just the other way around. I definitely think she no longer can control him. And yes, obviously you could argue she'd already lost control. The beheading of Ned was part of that. That's why Tyrion is sent back. But you take this scene and put him up against the scene where she's kind of healing his injury, working on his wolf bite after the King's Road incident, and talking about giving him lessons and listening to him, let him vent. And even though Joffrey's kind of a little pill there, he's still listening. He's still under her wing, and that's no more. And this is the moment where I think it does break for good. Yeah, Zach Anderson says it in the live chat. I think the slap of Joffrey is when she realizes that she lost control of him. And, her Lena Headey plays it so well. Obviously, she plays everything well, plays everything amazing and perfect in my point of view. Just the head down, nose, oopsie, just on a raw level of slapping the king, not good. But also, I kind of take it as a read as she knows the moment's broke too. She knows she might have just broken it. She was holding on. Ranger Donald says Joffrey couldn't be controlled until Tywin, but even he knew he can't fully handle him. Yeah, that's a great point about Tywin. You got the great scene of Tywin and Joffrey wanting to be counseled. You are being counseled at this very moment. I love that scene. Charles Dance stepping up those stairs. The final turn of after he tells Joffrey where to put it and just, your grace. I love that moment. Absolutely one of my favorites. But yeah, Tywin, I think Tywin was smart enough to know that he might have had control, but only for so long. Not that he wanted him dead or removed, but just they had to do something there. So love that call there. We got Mark from Feeding the Monster. Mark's going to be actually on Casterly Talk in, 2 episodes, breaking down and looking back on season 2, episode 4, the big themes and lessons. Let's hear Mark now, though, a call that came in just after I recorded an episode review.
Hello, Ken and everybody. Lots to unpack in this season 2 premiere, but something that stood out to me in this rewatch, and I haven't gone back to this one in a long time, but when we meet Melisandre and Stannis Baratheon and everyone over there on Dragonstone, Melisandre, during the burning of the gods ceremony that she's performing, she starts chanting certain words, and she mentions that the stars will bleed and that the dead will rise in the north. She predicts what happens later, the army of the dead, which makes me wonder, do you think Melisandre was in the know the entire time before she looked into the flames and saw Stannis fighting in the snow? Because she says, admittedly, she was wrong about all that, but do you think she knew that the army of the dead was on the march even back then?
Look, let's just dive into this kind of talking about it. I like focusing on the themes and the lessons and asking why about all the characters' choices. And so we'll try to answer that a little bit here. We got a comment in the sky that everyone believes they have a opinion on, or everyone does have an opinion on that comment and what it means. Osha kind of is the one that is right, or at least mostly right. red comic can only mean one thing: dragons. But to hear this was a great pull from Mark. There is a big question just going in world, into the show world, but into the story overall about the religions that are true, the religions that work, the religions that might have more importance to the actual story. And I think Melisandre and everyone else who serves the Lord of Light has enough evidence to say that maybe they're in tune with something real or something more. 7-pointed star, 7 gods, all the stuff. Nah, I don't know about that. Old gods, Lord of Light, I think those are connected. I mean, at least, and the God of Death. Let's not forget, the God of Death is the only one that we know is 100%. So the idea of Melisandre knowing, we know she was, a little older than her driver's license said. I think she could have. I think there's a lot of faith that she needed to employ to believe in all this, and to not just, it's passed down in her religion. This is the battle against the great other. This is the battle against ice. It's fire and ice. And I think she believes. And I wonder if the why of that is if you think you believe, or are you going to make mistakes and pressure yourself into that? I think, and maybe it's because I'm a Stannis stan, I think she believed in Stannis Baratheon. But by the time Jon Snow enters the picture and she gives him that look across the flames at Winterfell, or excuse me, not Winterfell, at Castle Black, and kind of lets him know she knows something, because she's dropping the nothing Jon Snow line that only she wouldn't know. I tend to believe that she did know in general what was coming, which is why, again, the pressures of it, why she forced herself into a situation where I have to believe this man. She believes in this fight. I think in the end, her belief in the fight pays off, and it pays off for everyone. She returns to serve her purpose and die in this land. And I think the long night episode being framed, with her story coming to a head there. It's one of my favorite things in season 8, and I do love the character, and I love where it goes. She was rewarded, and everyone else was rewarded for that belief. So I think going back to this first moment, is she throwing a dart at the prophecy board? Maybe. You got a comet in the sky, but she's pretty specific about the dead rising. So, I think you might be right, Mark. I think there's some knowledge there, and what that knowledge does to her might be part of the lesson. Ranger Donald says, I think she got the bullet points, but not the full picture, so she had to interpret what she saw. Yeah, and I think that's fair. And again, prophecies in Game of Thrones are meant to be kind of changed around here. So we got a couple questions actually from our good friend, Ranger Donald, as we call him around these parts. Donald Long with some book to show changes and a GOT Thanksgiving dinner invite.
Hey, Casterly Talk. Just want to get your opinions on 2 book to show changes that they make in this episode that I think work for the better. The first one we learned that is Joffrey who gave the order to kill Robert's bastards instead of Cersei like it was in the books. Which to me, so far, has the characters been presented, I could totally see Joffrey giving that order. While Cersei is totally not heartless. I don't see her yet giving the orders to kill random babies in the streets. The second being the name change between Asha and Yara. I think I like the name Yara better, but I'm giving opinions. Thanks.
Sorry, that one cut off a little bit. Let me keep going here with Reggie Donald.
Hey, Casterly Talk. With Thanksgiving here in the U.S. this week, if you could somehow magically invite the Game of Thrones characters to a Thanksgiving dinner, who would you invite? I don't name all of them I would invite, but a couple would be Daenerys, of course, but also Cersei and Tyrion for the choice in wine that they could bring, but also the typical Thanksgiving family drama that they bring along with, but also the family hot pie. I can always count on him to help me out in the kitchen or to bring something really nice to eat. Thanks.
All right. Who would you invite to your Thanksgiving Game of Thrones Mio, first let's go to the book to show changes. I do like the change. And I some book changes and show changes. It's totally fine because both work for me on separate stories. So Cersei being upset enough and wanting to remove any threat to her power, any threat to Joffrey's place on the throne, and protecting her secret and just kind of vengeance. It works for me in the books. I can get behind that. But in the show, there's something going to what we were talking about Cersei losing control. And so the fact that it is believed by us, the audience, that Cersei did this. And we learned from Janos Slynt, at least from Janos Slynt's reaction to Tyrion, that, it wasn't, and it was Joffrey. I think it's more valuable to the story. And it's more valuable to a character that was going to stay around longer, that she didn't do it, that she lost control of Joffrey, and he's spiraling out of control more and more and more, and that even she wouldn't do this. It maintains that one thread, the one powerful thread of Cersei, for better or worse, believe it or not, is a good mother and values her children and values that. It's the only thing she has. And she draws upon that often, all the way through the very end of the show, even when she may have been expecting another, So I think it works for me in the show, because that's what my thing about the book to show changes. I think that could be something that works very well in the book, and you have time to explain it in a different way. You have time to dive into even more the nuances. I think the show needs to find the lanes to stick in, emotional lanes to drive the story forward. And I think that is something that they draw upon a lot. Again, Cersei and being a mother, Cersei and a protective nature, Cersei, what she would do for her children, even more than her family name, even more than Jaime. It's her children. She will burn cities to the ground. I will not let that happen. She says all those kind of things. She gets it's a thrill line, so it works for me a little bit better. I keep going back, and I've talked about it a lot as we review season 2. I really love Clash of Kings as a book. I just think the show had a chance to go back and thin it down and just really drive the story forward. That is not a critique of Clash of Kings. How could I? Can't critique that. It's a spectacular story. It's just there's so many. The story starts to explode and go in different directions by book 2. The show just had to drill down on some things and make it simple. All right. Regarding Thanksgiving, Robbie Meeson, who are you going to invite to the GOT Thanksgiving table? Robbie Meeson says, Lord Frey. What's he going to eat? What are you going to serve him? Jim W says you're inviting Stannis and Jorah 100%. Yeah, look, I would try not to invite all the grumpy old men in Game of Thrones I like. I don't know if the limit on it, but if it's like if it's a 4-person party, 5 including me, Tyrion's got to come. Come on. He's a drinker, he's a talker, and he's an entertainer. Look at the stuff at him, season 6, telling jokes to Missandei and Grey Worm. He drinks, he knows things. He might dominate the conversation a little bit, but you don't mind. I'll take him. Hot pie's a great answer from Donald Long. That's his answer. I'm gonna keep that. I almost want to say Varys. I don't know what you're gonna get from Varys, but Varys is very charming. Conleth Hill's very funny, so maybe it's confusing that. But I gotta imagine if Varys is off the clock, and he never is off the clock, but I gotta imagine he'd be kind of fun at the dinner table to sit and have a conversation with. I'd say Renly. Renly's a good choice for me. I think I almost want to say Marjorie Tyrell as well, not coupled with Renly. You don't need, but Renly is, you can see people like him, so that works. Marjorie, I think some of the moments where she's not playing the game, I think she's funny, witty. She, around the table. Now, oh gosh, it just made me think about Olenna Tyrell. I think I would want to have Olenna Tyrell there. I think. But that might not go well. It might be one of the things like you're like, yes, I want Olenna there. Then she starts just cutting into your choices of what you're serving. Starts telling it like it is about the silverware or your house or you or your friends. And then you might have some problems. So I don't know about that. Regarding some of the grumps, Stannis, Jorah, I love those guys because in many ways they represent parts of me. I don't want to have dinner with me. I'm not a fun dinner guest. So I'm dour. I'm quiet. I concentrate on the food. I'll do that. I need people around me to be a little lively. Now, which is why I definitely think I want Yoren. There. Yoren and Raz. Rest in peace, Raz. Yoren, Raz, Tyrion, Varys. That might be the Game of Thrones GOT dinner guest list. Podrick there singing might be there as well. Mark Kameyer's here. Yeah, Mark, we played your call. We're catching up with calls, Mark. And Mark will be, like I said, on the show in 2 weeks, breaking down episode 4 of season 2 with me there. Ranger Donald, regarding his own question, says John can go either way. He can be a lot of fun, but then be, of course, brooding. Yeah. What is that Seth Meyers sketch where they have Jon Snow at the dinner table there? Jon Snow at a house party? Just at a dinner party? It didn't go well. I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I want that. You got to find who's good in conversation, man. A couple more calls here. We got this one from Billy again.
Hey, Ken, it's Billy. The big theme of season 2, episode 2 for me was the theme of friendship. There's notable examples throughout the season with setting up friendships or introducing characters or hinting at what's to come. But the biggest example of friendship in my eyes was Yoren protecting Arya and Gendry from the King's Guard. Obviously, at the time, he thought he was protecting Arya. And it's one thing to pull Arya from King's Landing and try to ship her away. And it's another thing to directly go up against the King's men and take arms against them. So that was a powerful example of friendship because that's how much Benjen means to Yoren and vice versa, I guess. And it just really stuck out to me that Yoren's such an underrated character. I don't think about him a lot when I think about Game of Thrones. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Jon Snow for that absolute fist pumping moment at the end when he heard the baby scream and he just ran right towards danger. It was amazing.
All right, there you go. I agree with Billy. A lot of friendship, connections, loyalty. There's honor on a big level in Game of Thrones, but honor on a micro level, on a small, more intimate one-on-one level, it works. And Yoren is a great character. Francis McGee, I always shout him out. He's so good. He has a brief part in Rogue One. I wouldn't have minded him having a little bit more to say. He's a rebel soldier. But yeah, there's a connection there, a friendship, that is there because of Benjen. It's an honor to a code that Arya and Gendry don't even understand. So that's all the way through that as well. And friendship is funny. We talk a lot of. I'm glad Billy brought that up because we talk a lot about these big themes and lessons in Game of Thrones, but sometimes it's down your own honor, and it wasn't your honor that brought you back, says Jorah Mormont to Jon Snow about Pip, Grad, and Sam. But that's friendship too. That's the power of that relationship, the importance of that relationship, and in this world where you don't know, you don't get a lot of people around you. You don't have a lot of people around you can trust. Look around you. We're all liars here. Everyone better at it than you. Like good, solid friendship, companionship, support. That's what you need. I'm thinking about the Shay moment. Shay's something. But Shay and Sansa. Now, Sansa is mean to her in the moments that she gets this new handmaiden out of nowhere. Doesn't seem to question it, but just all right. But just needs that kind of connection. And Shay, she picks up on the fact that Shay can do that, and they form a nice little friendship. Friendship's underrated in Game of Thrones. It should be there a little bit more. Yeah, Ranger Donald got a great one, and Mark Kameyer there in live chat. Daenerys and Missandei, yeah, very powerful friendship, and you can see what happens when it was broken apart and what it did. Again, I always say I get the bigger picture conversation around Missandei's death. I really do. Problematic on some levels simply because there wasn't as many POC characters on the show, and so you there's a lot of pressure on the ones that are there, and you kill one off, you're going to have a reaction. That's just what it is. But in terms of the story, I really do love the use of that death and what it does to Dany. It's a powerful moment because of friendship. Mark Kamar says, still sad we didn't get the bromance of Jon and Gendry. Yeah, I would have liked that. Warhammer, Long Claw, back to back. It would have been good. It's good stuff, Billy. I like that connection, that theme of friendship there. We got a couple left here. We're on to season 2, episode 3 with this call from John.
Hey, Kenny Casterly Talk. What a great episode to dive into. I had a possibly interesting what-if question for this episode. We learn about Lord Commander Mormont's knowledge of what Craster was doing with his sons, sacrificing them to the White Walkers. At least it's very heavily implied he knows it's the White Walkers. So if we infer that knowledge he had, and then we infer from the rest of the series that perhaps a good portion, if not all of the White Walkers we see are from Craster's sacrifice. So putting those together, if Commander Mormont, rather than sticking to that lame excuse, at least to me, lame excuse of why he kept Craster around, if he had instead bitten the bullet, stuck by his guns, and gotten rid of Craster, prevented him from sacrificing his sons to the White Walkers, how much of the events we see in this series, how much of that could have prevented, slowed down? What in general would have been the domino effects if Commander Mormont, as soon as he learned about what Craster was doing, stopped him? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
This is great, man. I love Jorah Mormont. He's a great character, but he's not without his faults. He's not without his mistakes, or not without the tough choices. I think Jean uses the phrase lame excuse. I don't disagree with that. I think there was hiding behind just what his duty was, turning that eye. That's why I think Jon Snow can really draw upon that in his conversation with Mance. I want to fight. I want to fight for the side that fights for the living. That only works because Jon's not lying. He's upset at Mormont, and Mormont's got some great lessons for all of us to learn from. And again, that's what I love. I love about any character in any show. There's a lot going on in Star Wars where a character you love shows up and they seem a little bit different, and the gut reaction is, I don't like this character. They've lived, they've learned, they've lost, they've failed, and we should learn about things from them. That's what these stories are for. These stories aren't canon checklists, theories. Did I get my theory right? Checklists. These stories are built upon the themes that end up meaning something to us in our own lives. And Jorah Mormont probably wants to do something about it. I think from something, the time we spent with the character, it's hard to go against what their duty is, what their honor is. Honor very big, vows very big in the Night's Watch, and he's got to do what he feels is best for his men. And look, he says it. Craster has kept Benjen, your uncle Benjen, alive. He's kept a lot of us alive. And I think I keep going to this idea of compromise, and compromise in our real world and compromise in stories is often viewed as a loss. It's viewed as, I want my way. I'm not going to get it. I'll get half my way or part of my way and shrug. Therefore, I lost. And I think that's probably, Jorah Mormont's made a compromise that for many, many years had to be made. I don't think he can go about it another way. It's more valuable to him to keep his Rangers alive with the help of Craster than maybe some dealing with some long off thing that may or may not be true. Now, if he knows, he says, the wildlings serve crueler gods than us. Does he mean the White Walkers in that situation? I don't necessarily know. I think he believes. He absolutely believes. At the point he's speaking to Jon, he's already experienced a white in his office. We already got is it Shadow Tower or East Watch by the Sea? They've already got 3 whites. They burned the bodies. They had more sense of that. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't fault them. And great call, John. Mark Meyer in chat here. Also, Mark brings up that Tyrion and Varys, their friendship is a solid thing. Going back to the friendship thing, Mark says that's a great question. How long or how much did Commander Mormont know about the walkers? That's like damning, says Mark. And that is true. Jim W. echoes that. Great call. Yeah, that's, and Ranger Donald says, could the Night Watch survive or range for long periods of time past the crash? Just keep without him. That's the question. I think, Mark, you bring up, you bring up a great point of like, how much did he know? And that's what I'm trying to get at. There's a gathering storm. Strong, cold winds are rising. Strong winds and cold winds. All the winds are rising. Mormont knows that. He keeps saying that. Benjen, Mark just asked in live chat, makes me wonder how much Benjen knew about what was beyond the wall. Yeah. How much did they know? We know they believe. In their hearts, they believe. But how many? Jor believes. I think Aemon Targaryen probably believes. Benjen believes. Does Alistair Thorne believe? Cotter Pike believe? Do all those people believe? I don't know. I go to the moment with Benjen and Tyrion up at the wall. Yoren and Tyrion are having the great conversation, joking around. Good old dour Benjen comes in. And it starts going at with Tyrion, and Tyrion just flat out makes fun of it. Oh, Grumpkins and Snarks, right? And the look on Yoren's face, I don't know. It's like when you have a friend that you love, and then they say something that you just, I don't want to bring in super current events, but they say something that you're just like, I love you. I can't follow you down that path. I've always taken that moment from Yoren like that. So I think overall they believe, but it's probably easy to. The Night's Watch is very much about the wildlings and their view of the free folk, what they even call the free folk. I think that's more the story. That's more of the lesson there, because that's what factors into Jon Snow. But all this to get to the point of, like, you could see for Jon Snow what it cost to try to change the ways of now less than 100 men with over 1,000-year history, right? Or more. I mean, way more than 1,000, right? I'm just going on 998, 999 Lord Commanders. He couldn't change. It cost him his life. So Jor Mormont having to make that decision. This might affect us later, but I have to be here in the now. And yeah, John uses the term lame excuse. It's almost like he just didn't want to deal with it. And we see that a lot. Hey, there's a girl, a Targaryen girl with dragons on the other side of the world. A lot of the characters did not want to deal with it. And it cost them in many ways. So look, Jor pays a price. Jor pays the biggest mistake Jor Mormont made, I always say, is Craster's Keep is not too far from the wall. I don't care what map you're looking at. Craster's Keep is not too far from the wall. I don't care how many injured people they have. Put them on your back. Stop at Craster's Keep, get an apple cider, and get on the way. Like, they're staying there until everyone heals. Bandage it up, walk it off, kid. Take a lap, hit the showers. Let's get out of Craster's Keep. I always, and that cost Jorah Mormont. He couldn't foresee that some of the problems were happening, but the tensions were rising, and that was the big mistake. That was the big mistake. Anyways, I know I'm not. There's no to me to the big what if. I'll try to answer directly, but what I love about this what if is it's just you're going into the heads and you can't really get the answers, man. Unfortunately, these characters aren't real. I think, right? They might be. Maybe Jorah Mormont's real. James Cosmo is real, right? Yeah, you just never know. But I think damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think he believed, but what's actually there? They're seeing things. They're definitely seeing things. I think Benjen believes. And after you get that white attacking him in the office, and and that's why that's also why he's marching. Though they say it's mostly, hey, Mance is gathering army. They're scared of that, or they're curious as to what Mance is doing as the king beyond the wall. But they know there's something else out there. So, give another opportunity. I'm sure Jorah Mormont might have slit Craster's throat if he had known that, hey, some of these stolen sons will come back to fight us later in the end. Anyways, last call here, and then I'll take some live questions, and then we'll get on the way here. This is from our pal Eric Monroe.
Hey, Ken and Casterly Talk. So season 2, episode 3 introduces one of my favorite characters of the series, and it's definitely a character I don't really love that much in the books, but I love her on the show, and that is Marjorie Tyrell. Absolutely adore her. I love Natalie Dormer. Loved her on The Tudors, where she played Queen Anne Boleyn. So when I found out she was going to be on Game of Thrones, I was very, very excited, and I think she's absolutely terrific, and I especially love her scene with Renly because, she gets right down to it with him. She says, look, it doesn't matter what you are. We need to have a baby. That's what needs to happen. Whatever we need to do, bring in Loras, we'll do it. Because I believe truly that Marjorie Tyrell was born to play the game, and she was very, very good at it. But I do want to say something, Ken. I have to say this for the record. I do believe everyone at Renly's camp was a traitor because Stannis Baratheon was the one true king.
We're going to keep that Stannis fire burning here, all right? Here at Casterly Talk, we represent Stannis Baratheon. You're just going to have to live with it. Thank you, Eric, for that call. Looking at season 2, episode 3. We will be talking about this here. And in fact, I will say we're playing catch up on questions, but these last 2 questions are for episodes already in the can. So you will not have seen those episodes yet. But yeah, Marjorie Tyrell, can't wait to talk a little bit more about her. Natalie Dormer is great. And this is a character, age difference, as with a lot of characters, aged up from the books because, well, yeah, you kind of have to. And you get this great performer who comes in and just brings life. Oberyn Martell, man, Pedro Pascal. That's exactly. He took a character. I do like the Red Viper in the books, but on the show, eons better. Eons different. Renly Baratheon's an example of someone you could spend more time with. Robb Stark. Shay, Sybil Kikili comes in and just, makes that character her own. Everyone did, but for the characters on the show, that pop a little bit more than they do in the book. It's because these performers come in and just know what they're doing with the role, what they're doing with the lines, what they're doing with their point of view. And Marjorie Tyrell, that great moment. Do you want to be the queen? Do you want to be a queen? No, I want to be the queen. It just says it all. And she's able to pull it off. I love, too, Natalie Dormer. Natalie Dormer said in an interview, and it's in Fire Cannot Kill Dragon. I'm just going to end up spoiling all the great gems from this book. I apologize. Read it if you guys haven't had the chance yet. She said she, number one, wanted off the show. And they kind of said, one more year. Julian Glover wanted off the show. One more year. So they send her off. And Natalie Dormer said something I really loved about this. She just, she was bested by Cersei, but she wasn't outsmarted. She was in a position she could not change necessarily. Some things I think she was outsmarted maybe at times along the way. Outplayed, not outsmarted maybe. But in her final moments, Marjorie was right. Something's wrong. Cersei's not here. We got to go. She was right. And so she might have been bested, but she didn't necessarily lose from a certain point of view. Marjorie Tyrell is a great character. She, again, comes in season 2. It's crazy. This is why I really love season 2 just a lot. I love it much more than I did when it first hit in 2012. It has the impossible task on expanding a show past a perfect first season. Perfect first season. Small budget and all, or smaller budget and all. Season 2 has to take that and grow it. And you have a lot of pressure and faith on Stannis Baratheon, good old dour Stannis. And then comes in you got Marjorie Tyrell, and you could have played Marjorie Tyrell as some sort of you know, sex pot, just trying to climb her way up, wants to be the queen. It never was approached with that. Never was approached with that. It is so much. There is a warmth there too. I believe the stuff with her and Sansa, the whole porridge face conversation and everything. Marjorie has, she can go back and forth, and what is sincere, you might never know. Is it sincere that she goes and helps or speaks to the orphans? Maybe, but in that moment it is. She has the ability to believe. I love watching that character work. In that moment, she's stepping over a river of crap to get into the orphanage, and is using it to pump up Joffrey. Oh, your father died at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, but that was when Joffrey saved us all. She's using it. She's smart. But I think in that moment she's connecting one-on-one, and it's not a lie, and it's real, and that is why she was such a threat. And hey, look at that, Sir Thomas Tall in chat. We got to get Thomas back on the call here. Buff up your head, Thomas. Come on, clean it. Let's get on camera here soon. The moment of realization for her is one of my personal highlights of season 6. Yeah, that's great stuff. And she was playing the part of a game long before most realized the pieces were on the board. She's there from the start. She's there for family. And also I love the moments when there is a genuine fear or concern. Some stuff going on with Joffrey. She's smart enough in that scene with Joffrey and the crossbow. Such a great Marjorie scene. She knows she cannot control him in any other way, but kind of letting the moment play out, letting him, connecting with him on a violence level, right? Like appreciating his violence is how she has to approach Joffrey in that moment, and it works. Yeah, Mark Kamara says, when Olenna, Queen of Thorns, is your grandmother, you learn how to play all the games. Yeah, as Diana Riggs said, I was good. I was damn good. Yeah, Marjorie's a great character, and going back to my rambly conversation here about season 2, we're still in the middle of discussing it. But this is where it's just really succeeds when you go back. It has the time, and it's the benefit of the time to go back and have these small intimate moments. The Tyrion, Tywin and Arya stuff comes to mind. But Marjorie, you got Stannis, you got Melisandre, you got Davos, but then Marjorie shows up, and it could have been flat. Like I said, it could have just been a boop, 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 boop. I'm a sex pot. I want to be the queen. I'll work my magic. But she is a rival for Cersei. There's depth there. There's a sincerity there. There's a danger on her own. She just maybe lacks that one bit of killer instinct. That's why I love when Cersei reminds her when the whole, Reigns of Castamere explanation scene. Don't you ever call me sister again, right? That's real fear for Marjorie. She lacks that. And maybe in the end, that's what gets her. Not necessarily her final moments, but just her not having that killer instinct. I don't know. We'll it's going to be fun focusing on the themes and the lessons of Marjorie Tyrell going forward. Sir Thomas Tall says, yeah, she had a good heart. That was her downfall. Yeah, the thing about Marjorie, she knowing how to play the game is something we're going to say because it's Game of Thrones. But knowing how to survive in that world, it's a patriarchal society, to say the least. It is not. You're not in a good position being a young woman in this world, particularly of a highborn house. I mean, you're probably better off than a lowborn house, but you're bred to be a pawn from the start. What does Baelish say to her when we first meet her? She's talking about my marriage. You seem to be rather interested in my marriage, and Baelish says your marriage is rather interesting. Anytime a young woman is married, it's interesting in this land because it's a pawn, it's a piece. You're a piece. Marjorie knew that. Marjorie still got hers. I love the stuff with Sansa talking about. I think it's with Tyrion. Like she's gonna have to marry Tyrion. Basically, Sansa and Marjorie talking about sex. And Sansa's like, where'd you learn all this? Did your mother teach you? And Marjorie's like, yeah, my mother taught me, sweet summer child. Yeah, that's the way. Marjorie went out. She got hers. She made her climb. She got to where you got to where she wanted to go, and she died. She didn't win, but and I think she would have been a queen. I think if she had if Renly had sat on the throne, I think her and Renly would have been an absolute power couple, and it would have been good for the realm. So she's a fascinating character. Marjorie Tyrell. There's a reason she was married to 3 kings. Yes, indeed. Cersei said that several times, says Jim W. Yeah. And there you go. Did I handle that okay, Thomas? Talking about the birds and the bees with Sansa and Marjorie. I was as uncomfortable as Sansa. Well, I'll have to. If we get married, I'll have to. Oh, yes, you'll have to. Natalie Dormer is great. Absolutely love the character. So that is our catch up on Q&A questions. We'll do this again. I'll still be probably bulk taping some of the shows, which is why I do say if you have a call about a specific episode, now's the time. Call into the Anchor app, go to anchor.fm/Casterly Talk, leave a message and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm calling about season 2, episode 8. I'm calling about season 3, episode 3, and I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I have to kind of bulk tape a little bit more now, but your calls going back to the Daily Thrones days have been what have made this show so great and so fun to do. Not great like I think it's great, but it's been fun to you guys make it something more than it is by coming in there. Thomas says I handled the birds and the bees, as Mark says the little birds and the bees. Thomas says I handled it beautifully. The question is, does Christy McGee think I handled it beautifully? That's the question. Jim W., thank you for live chatting and saying some great stuff, great questions here. So that's the story for right now. Been a lot of fun hanging out with all you. We did this live. We'll do it again. Don't forget to follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to kennapzok.com to get information on all the things I do, including if you want to support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Ken Napzok. I'll say this. Great. Kristen McGee says, I handled everything beautifully. We're going to be all right, children. We're going to be all right. I will say this very shortly, Casterly Talk will be moving to its own YouTube channel, kind of building a foundation for something else that's coming. So it will no longer just be on my channel. The podcast will remain the same, but we will be heading over to our own YouTube channel, which means we'll have to build it up from scratch. No subscribers, no 4,000 hours to get monetized yet, all those kind of wonderful things. But we're going over there, I believe, as we head towards House of the Dragon, which will be a thing. Don't forget, at some point, we're going to see that show. We're going to have Casterly Talk kind of be on its own on YouTube here, but remain where it is on the podcast. All right? That is it for all, my friend. For now. For now. It's late on a Friday night for me. We'll see you. Bye.